The Oklahoma Sooners had a very good weekend in a couple of sports. We'll talk about the Crimson Combine, give our takeaways on the Crimson Combine, how it went, how we view it, how we think it could go, maybe some differences. Want to hear your guys' opinion on it as well because the spring football format has been completely changed. I want to hear you guys' thoughts on the Crimson Combine. And we're also going to talk about Oklahoma baseball, dive in deep to the series this weekend, a big series. There's some mixed reviews on how this series really went from the fans. And I want to hear you guys' thoughts on that as well. We're going to talk about it all and much more here on the Sooner Spotlight. Sooner Nation, welcome into another episode of Sooner Spotlight, your all-access pass for all things Oklahoma Sooners athletics. We're going to dive into a couple of things today, both into football and in the world of baseball. Jump in that live chat, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. As always, we love to hear from you guys. Want to hear everything that you guys got going on. I want to hear, what you guys thought of the Crimson Combine. Go ahead and start off with that, and then we'll jump into baseball later on. I will try to get to as much of the chat. It's over on my side panel off to that direction. So, jump in the live chat, guys. Let's get this thing going. Let's get this thing on the road. I do apologize for a little bit of a late start if you're joining with us live. We were hoping to be jumped on here and already started by 6:30, but instead had to postpone because I was trying to get everything uploaded and everything was being really slow. Then had a hard time getting live, but we're here. Go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Like I said, jump in the live chat. If you're watching after the fact, then you can always jump in on the comments down below as well. But want to first start off by mentioning that the Sooner Spotlight is a member of the OU Insider content lineup. Go over to ouinsider.com today. Get signed up. It's as little as $9.95 a month. You can get started. Try it out for a month. See how you like it, and just go from there. You don't have to do anything special. You just sign up today. Go check it out. It's so much more than just getting some news articles and things like that, sports articles. It's so much more. It's a community. It's the best Oklahoma community out there. Get signed up at ouinsider.com today. Again, as little as $9.95 a month. If you're somebody that goes to the coffee shop in the mornings and you're ordering a coffee in the mornings, you could totally afford $9.95 a month for an amazing opportunity. We had a bunch of fun discussions on there today about OU baseball. Was able to kind of comment back and forth with some people. You can ask questions. Brandon does a great job with some VIP, chats and stuff like that. And then Parker is really good about getting on there and getting some of those questions answered as well. So go over there to ouinsider.com today and get signed up. Don't wait any longer and stop missing out on the inside scoop. But let's go ahead and get into it. We're gonna jump right into it. First, starting off talking about the Crimson Combine, our takeaways from the spring game change. And I meant to pull all the numbers up, and again, kind of crunched. Just had a little bit that I was doing before this, and actually an interview that you guys will see hopefully tomorrow or Wednesday. I'll make sure to post that out there. Fun interview. I had a lot of fun doing it, but that's why I didn't get everything pulled up. But first, starting off with the Crimson Combine and jumping over there, I want to get you guys' thoughts. And I think, there's when it first came out, I think that the concept alone was very loud and clear from Sooner fans, and in what Sooner fans thought of this Crimson Combine, and it wasn't very good. I think a lot of people hated the idea of it because you're changing the format, and you're not just changing the format, but you're changing the foundation of why people come. And I'll get to what I think can change, what I would like to change about it. But first, starting off with attendance, I think attendance spoke very loudly. And if you're just an Oklahoma fan, or if you just look at just what you see in attendance from Oklahoma, and you see that and nothing else, you think, oh man, this program is going down in the dumps. I don't think that's the case, and I don't think that the attendance was what I don't think it speaks to anything outside of the fact that people just didn't want to come to this format. That's what I think this is, and I'll get to why I think that. But last year at the spring game, we had the red and white, I think it was. I can't remember if they call it the red and white or the crimson and cream. Anyways, the spring game last season in 2024 was 45,861 in attendance. people come to the spring games. People want to see the spring games because, for one, it's a fan-oriented event where you're going to have some extra things going on the field and things like that. You might have a few extra things for the fans to come down on the field and compete, all kinds of stuff like that, which they still did some of that. But, it's a big thing. And for kids that come and they see that, they feel like they went to an actual game. And so that's huge for parents to be able to bring their kids and say, hey, I went to an Oklahoma game. Kids love that, all right? And that's something that I think when you take a look at the grand scheme of things, that's what Oklahoma fans want. They want that spring game, that format that we're used to. And there's some that you can take away from the spring game, although it's conflicting. And we always talk about this each and every year. I think fans talk about it. It's conflicting. Do I feel happy about the way they performed because my offense did good, but does that mean that my defense did bad, or vice versa? And sometimes you can still take key matchups. You can take key things away from a spring game. What we had in this one, so I think I said the attendance last year was 45,861. This year, just this past weekend, we had 16,316 was the official attendance. And the reason why people don't show up is because I don't think people want to see a Crimson Combine. I don't think people want to see a practice as much. It's not to say that people don't want to, because obviously 16,000 people showed up. I mean, that's a lot of people to show up for a practice. And that's basically all this was. You got to see how a spring practice is performed, and that's really all it was. There was a few extra things, and we'll get to that, what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it. I think right now basically is a segment that we talk about what we didn't like about it. But ultimately, it really was just a spring practice, and you were able to see the spring practice. You were able to see what was going on. There were certain players that popped out, and there was aspects of this that you were able to look at and take something away from. But I don't know that there was really a whole lot of anything you really took away from it, because this entire practice, like I said, it was just a practice. You didn't see anybody giving 110% the same way that you might in a spring game, even though they probably shouldn't, because you gotta watch out for the injury bug. You got to be careful. You have to be smart. You're not going to see any contact. Very similar to a spring game, I guess. But you don't see a football product. And from a fan's perspective, I don't get to see them out on the field and competing. It's not fun. I think that's why the numbers are so low. And let me pull this up for you just to make sure that I get the numbers correct. Alabama spring game attendance for 2025. All right, so I'm just pulling this up. I'm gonna start off with Alabama. So Oklahoma fans think that it was just Oklahoma. There's others that I've seen that have kind of thrown a little bit of shade at Oklahoma, like, wow, look at this. And I saw one going around, and I won't mention who it was that took the picture, that posted the picture anyways. But there was one going around that people kept on using it and kind of being over dramatic, saying 5,000 to 50,000 to 5,000. Well, first of all, 50,000, pretty close to 50,000 last year. There was more than 5,000 this year. I think that's being kind of a little bit over the top. It's being over dramatic, if you will. And so there's a lot about that. So that's one thing that you've got to take into effect. I know some OU fans are smart enough not to look at that and think that that's what was going on. Other Oklahoma fans know that there is more. And I've got the video pulled up too, where you guys can see. Shout out to Parker Thu, and I know he doesn't care that I give him the shout out, but he's the one that was taking this video. This isn't my video. This was one that Parker allowed me to use. Anyways, the overall attendance for Oklahoma dropping down was significant. And I don't know why I'm not pulling up the exact numbers now, but I was able to see it earlier. I think Alabama doesn't want us to see their total numbers, but Alabama also had a dip. They called it A-Day, and there was only a few thousand people in attendance as well. So last year there was tens of thousands for Alabama, and now this year only about 10 to 15,000 was the estimation. And I don't know if I saw official numbers for Alabama or not. How about Georgia? Georgia's spring game attendance in 2025. Also, they had a higher amount. This says 35,000. They still had quite a few show up, but it was way more last year. And again, a little bit different than what Oklahoma was doing, what Georgia was doing, but they also had a lower performance or a lower attendance show out. And then let me pull this up. I apologize. I know I'm kind of jumping around, but Ohio State also. This was the lowest crowd for its annual scrimmage since 2021. That's what I'm seeing here, and I'm not seeing official numbers. I know I saw them earlier today when I looked, but Ohio State's used to pulling in 80,000 and saw less than half this season. So I'm just showing this, all as saying it's not just Oklahoma. And I think timing, and I also think the format and the structure of what we're doing here with the spring game, that's why the attendance is not there. For Oklahoma fans that think that it's all just because of Brent Venables, the program's going downhill, that's not the case. Pump the brakes just a little bit. That's not the case. If you join OU Insider and see what the fans are talking about on there, I know that a lot of fans, there's fans back and forth on both sides of the aisle, but there are fans that are very optimistic going into this season, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Probably not so much today because we're going to jump into baseball in here in just a second. But there are fans on both sides of the aisle that are very excited. I think there's a larger margin that are realistic. I think Oklahoma fans are usually good about this. The louder minority, the minority is the louder half, and I think they're the ones that they're not so excited about the way that this program is going. Here's what I want to throw out there. Spring portal. I don't have the date pulled up. Spring portal is right around the corner. We know some guys are jumping into the portal. We won't really know who's going to be recruited out of the portal until very soon. We will get those numbers soon. One thing that Oklahoma did not, one group of people, I suppose you might be able to say, that Oklahoma did not have during the fall portal, the fall transfer portal window. We did not have the GM that we have now and the guys around him. Jim Nagy, I think his name is Nagy. I'm trying to make sure I pronounce his name properly. Jim Nagy, he is Oklahoma's new GM. I'm not sure if we talked about it here or not. I obviously didn't do a very good job in jumping on and talking about Jim Nagy coming over. But Jim Nagy coming to Oklahoma and the staff that he's putting around him, he's got NFL experience. He's run the Senior Bowl. I'm sure many of you already know who he is. I don't need to explain too much more about who he is and what he's done, but he will play a very large role in this upcoming spring transfer portal where we didn't have him in the fall portal. So that's one thing that I want to throw out there to you guys. I want you guys to understand that this upcoming portal is going to be different. There's not going to be as many spots opened. As far as wide receivers, I know that's one where Oklahoma fans would love to see the wide receivers flood in. I from what I understand, I think there's only one current position open for wide receiver. I think Oklahoma's going to try to hit a home run on the wide receiver. It might not be a home run name, might not be the big school that some of you like to hear, but they are going to try to get a home run hire in the wide receiver. If it was my prediction, that's what I'm hearing. I think there's only one. I think they're going for a home run, not hire, home run transfer for the wide receiver position. I think that's much needed, especially with the injury concerns. One thing to mention is that Brent Venables talked, and I wanted to have some video pulled up with Brent Venables talking after the spring game, this Crimson Combine a little bit. He did talk about Giovanni Gibson. It's looking very much like, hey, he had similar to what Kendall Dolby had, but not as severe, and he could be back by the time the season starts, which means that maybe by game 3-4, hopefully we see it. But I know we're not going to get our hopes up there because we heard that all season long last year. I know that. We've had some other guys out for injuries for football. I think there's quite a few guys that we're starting to see hit on the injury list that is concerning. But you know what? The offensive line can't get much worse. Is going to look a lot better. We have a quarterback in a system that he's familiar with, he's comfortable with. He's helping teach the guys around him. And that's one thing. So jumping over to what we liked about the Crimson Combine, you got to see John Mateer and see his arm. And from the video that we played just a moment ago, you can check that over on OU Insider's YouTube video. Watch the whole thing over there, rewind it, do all that stuff over there. And what that showcased was you got to see a lot of John Mateer throwing the ball. And you may not get too much of how good of a read he's making, but you can see his accuracy, you can see his fluidity, you can see his confidence, his potential. I think that's incredibly important. And so Sooner fans got to see that for the first time. I think that's one thing that we like about the Crimson Combine. Another thing that I've heard pretty popular opinion is that we liked the child aspect, the signatures. Fans, parents, kids loved the signatures, and they loved the aspect of how much they got to know, how much they got to interact with the team. I think that was awesome for the kids specifically. Future Sooner fans are more important than ever. And especially with how we've been in a down slump right now, you just got to get those young kids pumped up, wanting to cheer on their Sooners in the future. I think that's a great thing. That's something that every team should be always looking for an opportunity for. And that's something that a lot of fans liked. A lot of fans liked the fact that they had very easy access to go and get their son, their children, some autographs. Which, if you were a kid at one point, there's some of us that are adults that still love going down there and getting an autograph. And no shade thrown towards you, for if you are one of those adults. It's just obviously as a kid that is like the coolest thing ever. So I think that's the biggest takeaway, the biggest pro to it. So I'm going to jump over to the chat because I know you guys have been throwing some things in there. Durag Dickey, what's up, man? He's watching over on X. He says, it was a start. Definitely not great combine, but I can see it becoming something in the future. Just feels incomplete right now. Yeah, and I think that's a notion that a lot of Oklahoma fans are looking at. I think a lot of Oklahoma fans look and see that, it's just not complete. Maybe when they build this thing up a little bit more, maybe if they do something a little bit more with it, it just doesn't feel like they did a whole lot. And so, I think that's something to look at. I think that's something that Oklahoma fans would like to see a little bit more with it. Maybe we can see, showcase the players' abilities and things like that. That's definitely something that to look forward to in the future. Jimmy Satterfield, what's up, man? He says, no injuries was the most important thing to me. Yeah, and I think that's a big part of that. For Oklahoma, that's the biggest part. And that's the most important thing about not going to a spring game is injuries. Stay away from injuries. That's why. So a lot of the injury worry right now is that there's certain players that haven't been practicing. I think a lot of that is just caution. I'm saying I think because I know that that's what the coaches are telling us, but we have to be skeptical because of last year. I understand that. I'm with you, and I'm going to go down that skeptic road with you. Okay, so we have to be careful not to trust everything that the coaches are telling us. The coaches are telling us that they're holding guys back. I'm going to trust a little bit that's really what they're doing, and I think that's a smart move. Be careful. Don't put a guy into practice if he's not ready, and that seems to be what's going on, at least a little bit. And injuries is definitely a big thing. I'm gonna scroll through. I'll try to come back to a couple of these. Sooner Cowboys, a resident Sooner Spotlight viewer, says, Georgia hadn't had an excuse as well. A lot of fans probably at the Masters. You might be right. That had to have drawn some, right? But they were under half. I don't think half of their attendance was drawn away from the Masters. They're maybe a third. If you were to drop like a third, maybe they went to the Masters. Most of the time, most of the Masters viewers, the people that go in person, they're not from around there. Because at least from my knowledge, I just about anyone I talk to that's that's from there, they've been like, yeah, I've never been there. How do you not go to the Masters if you're from Georgia or from specifically in that area? I don't know. But that could have been part of it. So I will give it to you there. Jimmy Satterfield, Keon Brown, wide receiver. Yeah, I'll have to take a look into him. I haven't dove too far into the spring transfer portal yet. I will. I promise. I will get to that, Jimmy. Let's do that soon. Maybe this upcoming week, if I can get some free time this upcoming week. We've got a lot coming out this week, guys. I know I've been stagnant. I've been extremely busy. I travel a lot now that I'm covering baseball too for OU Insider. That's another reason why you guys got to join OU Insider. You get to see a lot more of the coverage that I'm putting out there for the baseball squad. Yeah, that's one thing that I've been doing. So a lot of traveling. That's the main reason why I haven't been on here a little bit more. And so no excuse. We're gonna be pumping a lot out this week, though. I've got this one today. I've got one coming out tomorrow, and I'm just gonna go ahead and mention it. Trey Gamble came on, and so interview with him gonna drop tomorrow. So keep an eye out on that. I might put that one out early in the morning so you guys can see it. We'll try to break this one up for people who weren't able to catch the live, and then we're also going to talk a little bit of a preview going into the Mizzou series as well, because I'm pretty excited about that Mizzou series. And there's a reason why I'm excited. It's not that Mizzou's an opponent that, as fans, you can be excited about. Anyway, Sooner Cowboys also says Texas landed a wide receiver transfer today from Stanford. Again, I haven't dove into the spring portal yet. I will be back with that, I promise. I will be back. And then Sooner Cowboys also says, I was at the Masters on Saturday. A lot of Georgia and Texas fans there. Wow, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. I haven't been there yet, so let me know what I should look for, because I'm going to make it there eventually, man. I'm a big golf fan. Check out MalabrosGolf.com. Not a sponsor of this show, but it's my business that I've kind of been back and forth on. I haven't really dove directly into it. It's a golf apparel business. Go check it out, Malabros.com. But yeah, I'm a huge golf fan, man. I love golf. I love my golf apparel. That's why I dove into this. You can even get one of these too. It's actually got this golf ball texture to it. Really fun. Shout out to Swig Life for partnering with me on that one. Anyways, let's jump into it. What would we do differently? I was planning when all this news broke out about the spring games going away, changing formats, all this stuff. What would we do differently? I was planning on getting my good friend Jake Crane from Crane & Company. He came on this show last season to preview Oklahoma. I know Oklahoma fans hated him last year. Guess what? He was right. And he was right for very similar reasons as why we were only 6-6. Just throwing that out there. Jake's an amazing dude. He's very smart when it comes to football. And him and I have very similar views. That's why I wanted to get him on the show to talk about this. Well, how would I change the spring game atmosphere? Because it does need a change. I think spring. I've always been against the spring game personally. If you're going, I mean, if you were to do away with it, I don't care so much. But I know that fans love the spring game, so I don't want you to do away with it. Here's what I would do differently. So my thought is that I would like Oklahoma, which Mike Gundy brought up a very similar point. Oklahoma State. I don't want that one so much because of injury concern. Players are going to try. Okay, you can tell them don't try in that game. They're still going to try, and they're gonna they want to win. I always thought invite a smaller team. Jake Crane's thought, if you ever listen to Crane & Company, his thought, and he's brought this up a few times, and it even changed my mind a little bit of how I would do it, is bringing in a small in-state school. There's plenty of in-state, very small D2, D3 schools in Oklahoma that you could bring in, and bringing in a smaller school that doesn't really have anything to lose. In Oklahoma, if it's a scrimmage that you're not trying, you're playing a lot of your third, fourth, fifth string guys, even guys that will never see the field. You're playing them, trying to conserve some of your injuries and stuff like that. Then you can play these in-state, and you're not so much worried about trying really hard. You're not really worried about trying to beat that little team, because it does nothing good for Oklahoma to say, yeah, we beat. And I'm trying to think, Oklahoma Christian. I think I think they have a. I'm trying to think. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank right now on a good little football team. Throw that in the chat for me. What's a good Oklahoma football team? Little D2, D3 team. That's what we're looking for. And Oklahoma's not going to brag about beating a little D2, D3 football team in spring football. They don't really care if they lose either. It's not really going to hurt. Fan base is going to overreact about it for sure. But what this does is it gives those. I like the in-state better, the way that Jake Crane described it, and I'm giving him credit because that part, the in-state opponents, smaller opponents, is really where he kind of dove into that a little deeper, and I like that. I like that a lot. And so if you do in-state, it causes those small schools that they're able to travel pretty easily to it. Oklahoma fans can still go, and they can kind of support both teams. They can support an in-state team a little bit that they're not ever going to have to go against outside of that. And on top of that, you're not playing your own defense if you're on offense, or vice versa, defense playing your own offense, where you can actually take away something from the game. Sooner fans can actually look at it and be like, hey, I don't know, Eli Bowen had a good play there. He had a good pass breakup, and I don't have to be upset that the wide receiver didn't run a good route, or that the wide receiver didn't get in front, that the wide receiver didn't catch the ball. You don't have to worry about that. Durag Dickey, thanks. He says Central Oklahoma. There's one. I don't know why I didn't think of that one first. There's a ton of them too. There's a ton of D2, D3 football teams that you could invite in, and you could rotate throughout the years. I like the Oklahoma State, the Bedlam. I like that concept. But like I said, I'm worried about injuries, especially recently. Let's just keep any competitive nature out of this. I don't want a competitive nature other than go out there and give us your best rep on defense. Give us your best rep on offense. But you can see and say, hey, Javante Barnes had a good game here. He looked good in this scrimmage. And you can actually tell that he did good because he's going against a team. It's not that your defense did bad. You can see specific things without critiquing the other side. So in a spring game, normally, the way that it used to be, the way that we always grew to love, is that you could critique how something is being done on the field. Not necessarily that Oklahoma scored 48 points on offense. Nobody really cares about that. But what you can look is, hey, like what we saw at the Crimson Combine, we saw Michael Hawkins wearing number 3 now. That threw me off, and it kept on triggering my brain trying to remember who that was. Crap. I just looked this up. Who is it? Oh, duh, it's Michael Hawkins. Michael Hawkins delivers a beautiful pass, and it was in the right spot. That's why the defense couldn't make the plays, because Michael Hawkins just had a beautiful throw. You're not going to be able to catch that. There was just enough separation where you can't blame the defender for that small itty-bitty separation, but the ball was in the right spot. You can look at that in a spring game with your offense against your defense and still critique little things. That wide receiver ran a really good route. It was still covered by the defense, and the defense was better on that play, but he still ran a really good route that's probably going to beat an opponent's defense. If you can really dissect the game like that, a spring game against your own defense works. It's a little easier when you're not saying, oh man, but our defense sucked on that play, or oh man, our offense sucked on that play. It's a little easier for you to dissect those things as a casual fan. And I'm not calling anyone a casual in a bad way. I think we're all casual fans at times, right? You got to be. I don't think it's fun to be a diehard fan so much. It's honestly never fun, but it's always fun, if this makes any sense. To be a diehard fan so much that you can't just relax during a game. It is fun because I'm that way. But sometimes it's fun just to sit back and just be a casual fan, sit back and just enjoy the game the way that it is, the way that it's brought to you. And I think it's easier to do that when you're winning. When you're winning big, last year against Temple, it was easy to just be a casual fan. That's what I mean by casual. Anyways, spring game, I would do it differently. That's my format. Play an in-state, play Central Oklahoma, and play them. Play some small in-state. I'm going to steal Jake Crane's idea there, an in-state opponent that you can scrimmage, and you can scrimmage well and go against. But guys, let's jump over to baseball. Oklahoma had a big weekend this weekend in baseball. They went against the 17th ranked Vanderbilt Commodores. Yes, 17th ranked before this weekend. And if you don't know who Vanderbilt is, I know we've got a lot of Oklahoma football fans who support the baseball team, if you don't understand, because this is our first year in the SEC as well, Vanderbilt is a very good baseball team. Okay, there's two things that Vanderbilt knows: mathematics and college baseball. Those are the two things. I know they were decent in football last year, but that's a fluke year. That's something that just happens every once in a while. James Franklin did that with them a few years back. Just that happens sometimes. Diego Pavia just went off. Anyways, baseball, very good baseball school. They know mathematics and baseball. I promise you that. And this weekend was big for Oklahoma. I didn't get a chance. I don't think I got a chance to preview this matchup, and apologies for that. Just busy. But if I were to have previewed this game, which I did myself, but not on the show, I would have expected Oklahoma to fight very hard for a 2-1 victory. They didn't fight very hard. They didn't have to fight very hard for a 2-1 victory at all. And it just all came down to the game plan clicking where it needed to and how it needed to. This game plan clicked for Oklahoma, and Trey Gamble kind of talked a little bit about that. You can hear that one. Like I said, hopefully tomorrow morning I'll have that one released for you guys so you can hear his thoughts on that as well. But Oklahoma moving that, I believe 25-10 is their overall record, 7-8 in the SEC. And I know that's alarming. We'll talk more about that later on this week as well. That is going to be released this week, where we talk about the standings. And that's whenever I preview the upcoming series against Mizzou. But right now, tomorrow is going to be Oklahoma State. So we're looking forward to that. But anyways, backing up, this past weekend, game 1, phenomenal game. You got to look at guys. Oklahoma won 9-4, where it just seemed like there was never really any chance. It seemed like there was a slight chance for a moment for Vanderbilt to come back. But Oklahoma started it off with a 4-0 lead. Vanderbilt started to make things interesting. One inning one run in the third inning, one run in the sixth inning, one in the seventh inning. They were kind of working some things, and it started to make Oklahoma fans a little nervous. Oh no, this is a pretty good SEC team. Are they going to bounce back? We saw Mississippi State do this in game 2, I believe it was, when it was a high-scoring game, and they kept on kind of inching their way with Oklahoma, and Oklahoma had to bounce back, and they're playing with us, toying with us, but Oklahoma was like, hey, let's put an end to this right now. Let's jump out ahead. Bottom of the 7th, Oklahoma scores 3 more, and then 2 more in the 8th. Just a great one. 9th inning, Vanderbilt was able to score 1 more, so they end up winning 9-4. Jason Walk had a really big game in this one. Ended up getting 2 RBIs, went 3 for 5, 2 runs on the day as well. Looked really good. He had himself a he had himself a double and a third in that game. Just really, really great stuff. Stealing bases, a ton of guys stealing bases. Let's see, we had Trey Gamble stealing bases, Jackson Willits, Jason Walk, Drew Dickerson getting in the lineup. Again, I like when Drew Dickerson is in the lineup. I understand why Skip switches in and out. I trust Skip. I guess I don't understand, but I trust him. I like Drew Dickerson in the lineup. I'm just going to say that. As a fan, the fan side of me, love him getting in the lineup, which he had a really good game too. Being able to see him, I mean, not a really good game, I guess. He got walked once and was able to score a run. But on that walk, he made it worth something. Dayton Taki also had a stolen base. Dawson Willis also had a stolen base. And yeah, I mean, it was great. It was a very good game. Dawson Willis was the only one with an error. I hear a lot of people kind of ragging. I'm not ever going to rag on any of the players. These guys, they're in the position that they were meant for. And guess what? You know what? In this one, you could afford the error in this game because you played so well outside of it. There's other matchups where you couldn't afford the error. LSU game 2, you just couldn't afford that one error. Sorry, game 3, I believe it was. You couldn't afford that error. But again, it's not a player that you expect to. It's not Kyle Branch was the one that made the error in game 3. Skip Johnson even said this. You would never, ever want anyone else in that position to make that stop that ground ball. You want Kyle Branch to be the guy making that play. Dayton Taki, that is your first baseman. Anyways, moving on. Very good game overall from Oklahoma there in game 1. They were able to win 9-4. One thing that I want to throw out here, Skip Johnson. I'm not going to call Skip a liar. I trust Skip. Skip's a really fun guy. The more that I get to know him a little bit, and I haven't even talked directly with him, but just getting to know him after on the post game pressers and things like that, getting to listen to him talk a little bit more. And you guys should do the same. I try to post all of them that I'm there for on the YouTube channel, so you can check them out, so you guys can listen to Skip. And he says that, and I trust what he says. So Kyson Witherspoon did not pitch on Friday night the way that he usually does. He's usually a Friday night, starting pitcher, and he had some back spasms throughout the week. I believe that was true. I'm pretty sure that happened. I think I heard that somewhere else as well. I don't know if that's really the reason why he didn't start pitching. I think that was to shake things up a little bit. Cade Crosland came in, had a really good game too in game one. Cade Crosland did really well, 5.2 innings, allowed 5 hits, only two runs, only 1 earned, so really only 1 on him. 2 walks, 8 strikeouts. Good game from Cade, and he's growing. Man, I love seeing him at the mound because he's growing. He's becoming a very good pitcher, and I'm seeing that more and more as he gets out there. Man, I like this kid. I think he's growing. All of our pitchers have been growing throughout the season. Even in a bad game, they're growing, and I love to see that. And Cade had a very good one. Jamie Hitt came in as well. Michael Catalano as well for 1 inning. But overall, and Jamie Hitt too. James Hitt. I'm not sure which one you should be saying because people get teased for saying Jamie. I need to ask him directly. Hey, do you go by Jamie or James? And maybe I like James because he's a man. He's a man's man. Anyways, James Hitt ended up having 4 strikeouts in just 2 innings, 2.1. So really good game from him too. I like seeing these guys grow. And James Hitt is another guy that I like seeing him grow. But Oklahoma was just able to capitalize mainly on J.D. Thompson kind of struggling a little bit. He got credited with the loss. The Vanderbilt pitcher, a guy that was kind of touted pretty highly from what I was hearing, and just didn't perform well. Not as bad as what we saw in game 2. We'll get to that in a second. Anyways, great pitching. Anyways, what I was saying is I don't know if the pitching changeup to have Kyson Witherspoon pitch game 2 and put Cade, kind of swap them, put Cade in game 1, Kyson in game 2. I don't know that was really because of that. My speculation, and this is all just rumor from me, this is not true. This is my conspiracy, okay? I like to do conspiracy theories every once in a while. I kind of wonder if Skip was like, hey, things aren't working for us right now. We need to switch something up. So he made a little change up real fast, as late as he possibly could, really. Oh, hey, by the way, we're doing a pitching switch up here. We're not going to put our ace in there on Friday. We're not going to have a Friday pitcher in there. The guy that's been a Friday pitcher every single game this season, we're not going to put him in there tonight. We're going to swap him and put him in game 2. The reason why my conspiracy, I say that was the case, is because usually what you see from Oklahoma is you get Jason Walk, Trey Gamble, Easton Carmichael, Jackson Willits, Dayton Taki. No, that's not quite right, but anyways, somewhere in that range, you get the very similar lineup. You get a little bit of switching here and there, but a very similar lineup every time. Because I know Kyle Branch is 6th in there, Jason Walk's 1st, Trey Gamble's usually your 2nd. On Friday night, Trey Gamble was your 1st. Then Jackson Willits, then Easton Carmichael, then Sam Christensen, then Jason Walk, all the way down at 5. This was a totally different lineup. It threw Oklahoma fans for a little bit of a loop. You have to imagine that it did the same for a Vanderbilt team who was practicing for this Oklahoma team. I don't know how much of my conspiracy is true, but I think Skip was saying, hey, let's throw this in there just to totally throw them off and make something different. And you know what? If that was the case, Skip knew what he was doing because it was great. It worked amazing, and Kyson had a very good game on game 2. Let's jump over to game 2 where Oklahoma shut Vanderbilt out 14-0. An absolutely amazing offensive performance from something that Oklahoma needed a statement. Hey, we've got offense. We know how to make this chaos how to make this chaos offense run. We are going to score, and we're going to show people that we know how to score. And they did just that. Came out and scored 14 runs. 3 in the first inning was impressive, and they kept the lead ever since, obviously, because they didn't allow a single run. But then, 1 in the third. The fourth is where it really bounced, and it just, man, that felt like a complete gut punch where you felt like pretty confident through 3 innings, even through the top of the fourth. Hey, I think we got this thing in the bag. We just got to keep on working this. Keep the offense moving, because I think all 3 innings up to that point, the offense was moving. They felt pretty good. But it wasn't explosive. 4th inning explosive, 7 runs, absolutely just dominant performance there in the 7th inning. And that's what really boosted Oklahoma ahead. Run rule is looking like it's within reach. And I mean, it was amazing. And because of that, because of the run rule, we were able to let Kyson Witherspoon close this game out. And he ended up going 7 innings. Let me pull up the official stats so I get this right. He had 7 innings, only allowed 2 hits in 7 innings, no runs, no walks, 6 strikeouts. That was a phenomenal game from him. I know 6 strikeouts doesn't sound great for 7 innings, but it's all that he needed to do. The defense really picked up their end, end of the bargain. They picked up where they needed to pick up as well, and they covered him extremely well. There was a hit. Guess what? He's getting out. Only 2 hits allowed all game. Just it was great for Oklahoma. And the crazy thing is too, Oklahoma had 2 errors. They had 2 errors, and still it didn't matter. Kyle Branch had an error. Dawson Willis had an error. Even with those 2 errors, you can afford to have errors when you're playing that good. When you're playing that good everywhere else, you can afford it. LSU game was you can't afford it because you're not batting well. You're not getting on base very well. You're not hitting well. That was a different scenario. Even in Alabama, you can't afford any error. Even if it's 1 error, you can't afford it in a tight game like that. Vanderbilt, normally I would say you can't afford it, but this was the type of game that you could, and Oklahoma performed really well. Game 3, Oklahoma got run ruled. Tables completely turned. It was in 8 innings, not 7, but nonetheless, they got run ruled. Let me bounce back to Game 2 real quick, just because I need to have some shout-outs for some of these guys. First, I want to start off with Deshaun Harris and what he was able to do. That was a great game from Deshaun Harris. An absolutely great game. He ended up, let's see here. I'm looking at the wrong guy. He ended up hitting 3 for 4, got himself a run, 3 RBIs on the day. He had a really good game, and he was big for this offense. Very good. Easton Carmichael, we never expect much less than for his name to be called. He's outstanding. And for a catcher, too, you just don't, I mean, it's not any disrespect to catchers. It's just the fact that you don't hear a catcher's name being called the way that Easton Carmichael is. And so absolutely amazing performance from Easton Carmichael. Loved seeing that from him. He had 5 RBIs, went 2 for 4, 2 runs for himself, got walked once as well. Amazing. He had himself a home run. I believe his was the one in the first inning. There was a 3-run home run, I believe. I might be wrong, because I know there was a 3-run home run in the first, and I believe again in the fourth. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just trying to remember everything that was going on. I didn't put much of this down in my notes. But anyways, big game from Easton Carmichael. Another guy to give a shout out there. Jason Walk had himself a weekend. He was really good in Game 1. Game 2 a little bit slower, but it was still good. And I kind of questioned too a little bit how much he was shaken up. I don't know if you guys noticed whenever he fell. I think they were even saying something on the commentary whenever he fell trying to grab that ball late in Game 2. It did feel like he was a little less agile, and I'm not sure if that's the case. Didn't look like he was 100%, and that had me a little bit concerned. But he had some time to rest today, and so hopefully he's looking 100%. And it could be just, man, Game 3, you're worn out, and so we'll talk a little bit more about Game 3 later on this week, because we've got plenty to go through. Real quick, just to jump over, I see Sooner Cowboys Want to make sure I'm keeping up with the chat here. Sooner Cowboys says OU baseball probably somewhere between 20 to 25. You mean rankings? Maybe that's just an inconsistent team, he says. Yeah, I mean, I think they are inconsistent, but I don't think it's an inconsistent game plan. And I think it's a consistent game plan all around. And sometimes things just aren't going your ways sometimes. I will say game 3, and I didn't pick on Trey Gamble too much today when I was talking to him. I thought about it. We went a little longer too. Okay, yeah, rankings. Yeah, so yeah, 2025, they're ranked in the top 20. I think they're top 20 for sure. And especially, I'll talk more about it and explain to you guys why Oklahoma is much better than I think some fans are giving them credit for. And I'll give myself an explanation. Tune in. I think that's going to be Thursday is when we'll get that dropped. I'll make sure to put that out there, either Thursday or Friday. So I'll make sure to get that dropped. Probably Thursday night is when I'll make sure that's dropped. But Oklahoma is much better than I think fans want to give them credit for. And it's because of the SEC. Okay, and I have a deep explanation. Don't have time for that tonight, but we'll get into it. Anyways, game 3, the bats just weren't connecting, and a big part of that was that, Connor Fennell, Fennell, not sure how his name is pronounced, but if you watch him pitch, this is something I didn't want to pick on Trey Gamble to ask why they were struggling, but I can understand why if this was the case, because if you watch him pitch, he pitches so quickly. It is as soon as the batter looks up, he's got to react right away because his leg is already kicked up and he's ready to throw it. And there was a couple of times, I don't know if it happened in that game or not, but there's a couple of times in some of what I watched of him where he's getting caught by the umpire. Hey, you're pitching that too fast. That's counting as a ball. And the umpire would have to explain that to Connor Fennell. And so, he pitches very quickly. His motion is very quickly. The pitch clock went down a lot, but a lot of the times that was all on the batter, and smart by them trying to take their time. But that also throws you off when you've got to change your walk-up because of how the pitcher is going. So no excuses. The wind was driving out to outfield, and they were able to capitalize on that a lot. Oklahoma just wasn't able to capitalize on that. They had their big home runs by Riley Nelson, and then also Braden Holcomb. He also had one. So, I mean, both those guys, their names were getting called a lot. I feel like Rustin Rigdon did really good, and then also R.J. Austin had a really good game. And, I forget who it was that was talking. It might have been Riley Nelson, whoever they had for their post-game interview on ESPN. They ended up having a player on and interviewed him and talked about him. Hey, what was the difference? Because this was like total flip of the tables, total turn of the tables. Oh, how the turntables. And he just said that we had a player meeting. And sometimes that's all it takes. A player-only meeting, and they talked about it, and they said, hey, this isn't who we are. We've got to bounce back. And they did. And so, I mean, just a total turn of the tables, and it was a crazy good response from them. Hats off to Vanderbilt because they performed really well there. And it was that's just how crazy college baseball is, and especially in the SEC. Don't freak out about that last game. I know that's in the recency bias. It's going to just stick in your brain that we lost game 3 and we lost it by run rule, but we won the series. Okay, that's more important than anything. Winning the series, winning 2 out of 3. That's the most important thing. Take that for what it's worth. I know, and like I said, I'm going to explain more of that, and I'm going to have a guest on to help me explain that a little bit this week. Jumping over to Durag Dickey. He's an amazing Oklahoma fan too. He says, the craziest part about this weekend was Malachi was our best pitcher of the weekend, but the score doesn't show that by any means. Yeah, and let's pull up. So Malachi Witherspoon, man, I hate this for him. A career day for him. Let's see, through the first 3 innings, he had 8 out of the 9 outs by strikeout. 8 of the 9 outs were by strikeout in 5 innings. So that's 15 outs in those 5 innings. He had 11 of those outs by himself by strikeout. He was phenomenal at pitching. And he had And you're right too, Durag Dickey, because he had the best pitching out of all of our pitchers this weekend. And, he was striking guys out. He was putting it where he wanted to. But when the bats did connect, Vanderbilt just made it happen. They made it, they made it count when they had that bat connect with the ball. And that was something that Oklahoma couldn't do much of in that game. Overall, let's see, Oklahoma ended up having 5 hits to Vanderbilt's 11 in that game. So, Vanderbilt was just able to make the most out of their few connections. He only allowed 6 hits, also allowed 6 runs, Malachi. Only walked 1 guy. I know he hit a couple. One of them I kind of questioned. They were talking about, it was an old teammate of his, kind of got a little chirpy over there too. And I'm not sure how much of that was going on. I wasn't down there with it, so didn't get to see that much. But yeah, I mean, Malachi, you're right. He had an amazing game, and I hate that game went the way it did because of how great he played. He pitched really well, and you have to, I mean, I'm sure you feel demoralized because, man, I just let up 6 earned runs, and I had 11 strikeouts. Like that, the stat line does not make any sense at all. And if you watch the game, and if you understand the game of baseball, it's a weird game like that. And especially with when they were connecting, the wind did help. They were connecting heavy. I don't want to take that away from Vanderbilt. They were connecting heavy. They were connecting, pretty well when they did connect. They were connecting pretty well, and that's the main reason why they were just able to capitalize when they were connecting. And yeah, you gotta. I hate that for the Witherspoon twins too. I feel like there's been other games too where Kyson has a really good pitching game, and you can't back him up on defense. There's a few things that go wrong on defense. That happens, and you've got to have everybody on top of their game. And the game of baseball is just weird like that. You can have outstanding pitching, and I'm not sure why this went dark on me. But you can have outstanding pitching, and it just doesn't matter. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to see if I can get this fixed. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. I'm telling you guys, it has been a rough day for that. We're almost through anyways, but sometimes as good of a pitcher, the crazy thing about baseball is that no matter how good you are at pitching, sometimes the bats are just connecting better than you can pitch on very few attempts. That's just a crazy thing. Especially we saw that this weekend. We saw that 100%. So crazy stuff happening this weekend. But like I said, the main thing to take away from this series is that offense woke up. Offense is still there. They are capable of scoring runs. They are capable of running the bases hard and heavy with this chaos, however you want to pronounce that, this chaos offense that we run, and that's something that is still there. We found it. We know that if we just stick to the game plan, we've got it. If we could stick to that game plan, it's there. That's what Oklahoma fans can take away from this. Oklahoma's offense is still there, and Oklahoma won the series. Don't get hung up on one game, okay? I promise you that's not how it works in college baseball, for one, and two, in SEC baseball specifically. Like I said, tune in on Thursday night. I'll make sure to get a time out there for when it's going to be released. It takes a little bit of time for me to edit and stuff. I know I'm going to meet with Blake Lane. He's an Auburn guy, huge SEC baseball fan. And so that's it. We will explain why, for one, the offense isn't going to look as good as they should at times, and we'll also explain a little bit more. I really do want you guys to tune into that one. If you're an Oklahoma baseball fan that is frustrated with this team, I want you to tune in, because I think that will give you a little bit more high hopes for the season and high hopes going forward for the future as well. Not just this season, but going forward. One more comment that I see from Sooner Cowboys. He says, non-chaos offense. You spell chaos wrong. And I don't know if that was something that autocorrect did to you, but it's CHAOUS. Anyways, non-chaos offense in too many games this season. I agree, but I promise you, it's there. It's just a matter of confidence at the plate, not letting yourself get down because you had a bad at bat. That happens too. Your confidence can leave pretty quickly. That's the crazy thing about baseball too, is that you've got many opportunities, but you get stuck on one sometimes. It's just moving on to the next opportunity. That's what we got to do a little bit better on. I also see my guy Boom Squad, I believe it is. He says, who do you think will enter the portal? I said this earlier on. I will be back. Maybe not this week. This week's a busy week, but we will do a portal. I haven't dove too far into the portal. I think Oklahoma's pretty safe in the portal as far as main starters. I think we're pretty safe. That's just from my understanding of things. We are going to dive in a little bit deeper in. I haven't dove too far into the spring portal just yet. We're going to have an episode to talk about the spring portal, who we think might leave, who we think might be able to join the squad as well. But I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. We had a fun episode tonight, being able to talk about a victory and then also kind of look at the upside of the Crimson Combine. I know there's some downside, but it's not a reflection of how this team is doing, I promise. I have a lot of optimism for this team, and we'll talk more about that as we get closer to football season. But hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. That's two things that is totally free, helps us out a ton. If you want to help support the show a little financially, you can go over to Soonerspotlight.com. Check out the merch store. You can check out stuff like this. Baker Mayfield planting the flag and the SEC logo. One of my favorites. Take a lot of pride in that design. We're putting out some baseball stuff for you guys. It's baseball season, so we've got some baseball logos and stuff like that to put out there. We're going to keep on updating that merch shop, so please support the shop, the show there. We're going to have more ways to support the show coming up very soon, hopefully. Trying to work on some things too. That way I can afford for some of the traveling that I'm doing for baseball. Hopefully other sports as well in the future. But want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. Follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at RealJoshMahler. It's there on the screen and down in the description below. Follow the show over on Instagram. That's kind of new. I want to build that Instagram page up as well, and give me some ideas for some more things to put out there on Instagram, because I have to be a little more careful. The show is growing. I can't do as much as I was doing. Screw that. I can do as much as I want. Give me some ideas. We're trying to grow that Instagram channel, though. You can find the show at Sooner Spotlight. We'll try to keep you guys updated as much as we can on social media and so much more. But we want to thank you all so much for tuning in. Again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, 5-star review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're not listening over there, jump over and hit that subscribe button, and 5-star review helps the show grow so much. But we thank you all so much. We'll catch you next time. Boomer.